All right, so another nice day with pretty high top of lift, not as high as yesterday, but still seems to be potentially a nice day for a longer XC. I was able to get established pretty quickly after launch. There were a couple of other gliders also helping me out a little bit, and a friend of mine, Mike, went on a glide, and I just followed him to Galbraith. I know the winds today were a little bit north, or at least forecasted in the beginning of the day, and I was trying to sort of go more on the north side to be able to milk some of those. And this part of the day, for some reason, the lift wasn't very strong on the hills. I was getting pretty light climbs, and I saw my friend going over the hogbacks, so I tried to follow him and just see if some of these areas would be generating. Um, there was some broken lift here and some birds show me the way, but it was still pretty minimal and inconsistent. So I was kind of trying to work it and get established, and it was a little bit tricky at this point. I saw my friend bomb out right now next to the hogbacks, and so what I tried to do, I tried to escape to the hillside and see if I could find some climbs there. There was a lifty line, but nothing really consistent, so I just pushed a little bit further north. I was seeing this big field next to White Ranch, and I was thinking that must be cooking in the sun and generating something. So I sort of tried to boat around that area, although I've previously found White Ranch to be kind of inconsistent and sometimes tricky because it's so shallow. But indeed, I caught a boomer thermal right over there that took me to about 9,000 feet. Interestingly, the thermal was now having a south component. So I noticed how the wind shifted a little bit, and so it actually released on the north side of that little field out there. I went on a glide over Ralston Buttes and I caught something right off the edge of arriving there, which is oftentimes heating in the sun even pretty early, and seems to be quite reliable thermal marker for me. Then I went higher over the buttes and caught a couple of more inconsistent thermals, and I took a pretty lifty line over the high terrain approaching the Coal Creek Peak. Just before crossing to the Coal Creek Peak, I caught some thermal there, and which boosted me to 95. And so since I didn't feel much lift over the peak, I just continued on a glide forward. However, there was some lift to work on north of the peak, and so I felt I was pretty comfortably set up, so I kept moving forward until I would hit something strong enough to get way higher. Here I'm almost at the 11,000 feet and now doing a glide over the Eldo or approaching Eldo, and um, and so it's interesting how the wind is switching. So you can see just a while ago I had south component, and now again there was some north component in the thermals. I'm gliding over Eldo here and approaching the ridgeline. Um, I'm suspecting to catch something on either the lee side here, a little bit protected, or on the upwind side. Uh, Indeed, I'm able to find something here that is quite workable, about 2 meters a second thermal, and get established higher and just continue going forward. I'm expecting to get some solid climbs or flat irons, as those tend to work really well this time of day. However, I'm not getting much. There's literally nothing, and I'm just going down on glide. Finally, just before crossing Boulder Canyon, I find something on the is it Flagstaff, I guess, um, but very minimal. So I'm trying to work it just because I know how inconsistent the next climbs may be. However, there's not much, and I'm kind of getting low here. So I'm trying to work every little bit of lift that I can get. Finally, I catch something stronger and I'm able to go back and get established. I can see some gliders flying way higher than me, but it seems lift down low is a little bit more limited. My goal is to, for the day, is to fly to um, the launch of at Boulder and turn around and fly back to Golden. That was my objective that I set for myself. So I'm still working these thermals here. However, even though I'm on a glide to the launch, I decide to keep on working and getting higher so I can go to the launch, tag it, and be able to return back. So now I'm at 12,000 feet already, and the thermal kind of wanes a little bit. This is probably the highest that I got on this flight. And so here I am tagging the launch and then turn around and start running um, back south. On hindsight, maybe I should have not kept on pushing so hard um, to tag the launch and could have just turned around immediately once I topped out the thermal. I probably would have gotten like 1,000 or 1,500 feet more altitude that way when leaving. As I'm doing the crossing, you can see the clouds building up. Those are some high clouds, but either way, they shade out the area a little bit and mellow things out quite a bit. So I caught something approaching the Flatirons ridges, and then I try to go on a glide. To cross the next hill, I'm thinking that I should probably catch something before them. And indeed, there's another glider um, that's circling in that same area. I can see that he found some boomer climb, and I'm trying to work that as well, but for some reason it doesn't quite work out as well to me. I was also not maybe paying as much attention as I should have, and should have just kept on working this one to get a really established high. Because now what ends up happening is that I sort of uh, glide down into the Eldo area, and I'm not catching any climbs on my way, which is kind of interesting. I would think that all those walls facing west would be heating up in the sun, and the thermals, lee side thermals, would be kicking in, but I'm not really sensing that. There's barely any lift available, and I'm almost giving up at this point and thinking of going on glide to land. However, I find some weak climbs right over the river and just next to these walls. And so I end up like trying to give up several times. I get established to a place where I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to land, and then I catch something again. And so it moves me a little bit higher, then again I go out and thinking of maybe this is not working, and then finally again it boosts me back in. So I kept on doing this for quite some time until I got over the peaks south of Eldo. Even here at the peaks, the lift is quite inconsistent, and the wind has picked up too, and I feel like I'm getting blown back quite easily, and I don't have that much penetration forward, and so I try to work all the lift that I can get. However, I'm noticing also that it's harder to find anything consistent. Now it's already a little bit later in the day, and I'm not really getting any stronger climbs to be able to cross over to the other side of Coal Creek Peak. Um, what ends up happening after this, I keep on fighting and trying to work this crappy lift that is partially maybe ridge lift and partially some thermic lift, and and I end up just essentially gliding on the east side of these hills, um, gliding towards Coal Creek Peak, and I make the glide, and I get established maybe at maybe 2/3 of Coal Creek Peak. However, I can't really find much consistent thermals there either. So I end up just searching for quite a bit and then going to Lad next to the Coal Creek Highway. Overall reflections on this day. Um, I think it was a good day. It was lots of variability and interesting. At some points there was north wind, at some points there was south wind, and kept switching. Some of the climbs were pretty high, but they were not very common, and so it was a tricky day for sure, for me at least. I was really little puzzled by the ending of the day because it didn't seem that late yet, but I just couldn't survive essentially, and just everything was being shut down, and I couldn't find any consistent climb. So I'm a little bummed that I wasn't able to fly back all the way to Lookout. There was another observation. Another pilot was flying also from Lookout to Boulder on a similar performance glider than mine, and he launched later than me. However, he was moving way faster, so he was able to cover the same distance that I did in about 3 hours, whereas it took me about 5 hours. So that just highlights some weak points for myself that I need to work on, how to improve my efficiency and speed in XC flying.